below or email me. I'm always happy to help. Other than that, let's get into our questions. So, question 1 for today. Before she left for work, Morgan told her husband to empty out the dishwasher. If he complied, she would watch the football game with him when she got home. When Morgan got home, she reinforced her husband for emptying the dishwasher. What type of measurement did Morgan most likely use? Okay, so what did Morgan do? She set up a contingency, an if-then statement, right? If you do this, then you get this. Morgan's husband emptied the dishwasher, and then Morgan reinforced him for emptying said dishwasher. Now, we need to figure out what type of measurement Morgan most likely used. So what's the giveaway here? Ask yourself, was Morgan actually observing the behavior? Was she home when her husband emptied the dishwasher? Well, no. Morgan was at work, right? When she got home, she reinforced him for emptying a dishwasher. So she didn't actually see it happen. How could Morgan know that her husband had emptied the dishwasher? Well, could she use rate? Well, rate wouldn't really apply here because we're not counting anything for one. Okay, there's no frequency involved. And 2, again, Morgan didn't directly observe the behavior. What about play check? The planned activity check. Again, Morgan isn't directly observing a behavior. Same with partial interval. So the only recording method given where Morgan doesn't actually have to watch her husband unload the dishwasher is permanent product. Remember, permanent product measures the outcome or the result of a behavior when you don't actually have to be there to observe the behavior. So Morgan went to work. While at work, her husband emptied the dishwasher. When Morgan got home, she was able to check the dishwasher, see that it was empty, and provide reinforcement. Morgan most likely used permanent product. Glenn knows that his 2 kids love Hershey Kisses. He doesn't want to use chocolate as a reward, however, because he is worried about cavities. Glenn decides he will provide a token every time he gives a chocolate to his kids. What is Greg attempting to do? Okay, pretty common scenario. Edibles can be very reinforcing, right? They're unconditioned reinforcers, no learning history needed for food. Okay, however, there is a health, ethical, and just health in general concern with using too many edibles. So in this case, Greg wants to try to avoid using chocolate. However, that's reinforcing at the time. So he decides he's going to do what? He's going to take the token, give it to him at the same time he gives the chocolate. What is he attempting to do? Is he bribing his kids? No, there's no evidence that he's bribing, right? We don't know what the contingency is. We just know it's a reward. So there's not enough evidence to really say he's bribing anybody, right? What about creating a conditioned reinforcer? I would say so, right? He's trying to do what? He's trying to pair these tokens with the chocolate. By giving the token and then the chocolate at the same time, he's trying to create a conditioned reinforcer by transferring the reinforcing properties of the chocolate to the token. This way, in the future, he can use a token as this generalized conditioned reinforcer instead of the chocolate. Okay, so this one looks very good. Remember, on the exam, always read all of your answer choices. You're looking for the best answer, okay? Not the one that only looks good. You want the best answer. So even if A or B is correct, read all your answer choices. What about avoid punishment? No, there's no evidence that he's trying to avoid punishment here, or there's any concerns around punishment. And then the reinforcement schedule. No, it seems like he's still reinforcing on the same schedule. He's just doing it with tokens, pairing it with chocolate, and trying to create a conditioned reinforcer. So this question is a good example of not adding stuff to the question stem, okay? Only use the information they give you. They don't talk about punishment. They don't talk about reducing reinforcement, right? All they're talking about is the process of pairing a unconditioned reinforcer with a conditioned reinforcer, okay? So Greg is attempting to create a conditioned reinforcer that is the tokens. If you know you need to take both frequency data and duration data during your upcoming session, what would be best to bring to that session? So this is a question about preparing for session, okay? This is a task list item. What do RBTs need to prepare for session? When you're answering a prepare for session question, just think about how would I get ready for a session, right? What do I need to do? Well, I'm going to need to take data. I'm going to need to reinforce my client. Okay. I might need to time things. Okay. Understand what you need for the session. Okay. Do you need pens? Do you need paper? And that's what you're going to bring. Okay. It's just preparing for any other workday, right? What do you need in order to do your job? So in this case, we're going to take frequency data and duration data. What are we going to need? Are we going to need something to record data with? Of course, right? Whether you're taking paper data or computer data, digital data, you need something to record data with. That's what we do, right? Everything's data-based, so we have to record the data. Obviously, A is something we need. What about a stopwatch or a timer? Well, if you're going to take duration data, you're going to need some sort of way to do that. And a stopwatch or a timer is a great way to do that. So I would say B as well. So you can see where this is going. What about frequency data? Well, you're going to need a counting device, okay? Most people say, well, I just do it in my head. That's great, okay, but that can lead to errors. So if you can get a counting device, one of those counting clickers or something, it's just a much better way to ensure treatment fidelity, okay? Ensure you're getting accurate data, right? So a counting device for frequency data would be great. So what are you going to need for session? You're going to need all three. Again, all the above. Okay, this is just a prepare for session question. What do you need? All the materials you're going to have to use to create or take data and create behavior change. Okay, which of the following scenarios best represents antecedent manipulation? Antecedent manipulation and consequence manipulation questions should be very easy for you, okay? And why is that? Well, if we're asking about antecedent manipulations, okay, there's only one answer where you're going to be doing something before the behavior happens, right? That's what an antecedent manipulation is. Altering something before the behavior happens is preventative, right? Consequence manipulation, on the other hand, is reactive. That's going to be after the behavior, okay? So when they're asking us for the antecedent manipulation, we immediately know we are looking for a scenario where we are doing something before the behavior happens, some sort of preventative measure. Okay, so keep that in mind. All right, you are teaching your client to ride a bike. You reinforce them for grabbing handlebars, pedaling, and steering. You should have stopped at the word reinforce. Why? Reinforce is a consequence. It's a consequence manipulation. That's it, right? That is the key word. That's a signal, okay? We don't need to read any further. You're reinforcing them. That's a consequence. Out. Your client's screaming behavior is attention-based. Your BCBA instructs you to provide reinforcement every 2 minutes non-contingently. Now, okay, this is difficult, right? You're supposed to provide reinforcement every 2 minutes, however, non-contingently. This is what makes it tricky and why you should read all the answer choices, okay? Non-contingent reinforcement occurs what? Non-contingent reinforcement occurs before the behavior, okay? Non-contingent reinforcement is an antecedent intervention, an antecedent manipulation, okay? This is a hard question, okay? It's really testing your knowledge of the different types of reinforcement, okay? Non-contingent reinforcement, okay, is altering the motivating operation for attention. We provide non-contingent reinforcement before the behavior occurs, okay? Reinforcement is normally contingent on the behavior occurring. Non-contingent occurs before, okay? So this is the antecedent manipulation we're looking for. This is obviously the right choice, okay? Let's read our other two answer choices. If your client sits at the table for 5 minutes straight, you deliver praise. Obviously, this is a consequence for what? Sitting at the table, not an antecedent manipulation. And then you used to deliver reinforcement every 3 responses, but now only every 6, okay? So you're delivering reinforcement every 6 times, okay? You're still delivering reinforcement contingently on responses. This is a consequence manipulation, okay? You are, again, being tested on your knowledge of non-contingent reinforcement here. Remember, non-contingent reinforcement is an antecedent manipulation. It acts on the motivating operation. This is a hard question, okay? Don't worry about if you don't truly understand it or are confused. Just refresh on non-contingent reinforcement and motivating operations, okay? Tricky question. Okay, your client's mom informs you that your client is allowed to pick any dessert they want as long as they eat dinner. Your client eats their dinner and then tells you they want a piece of cake for dessert. You tell them they cannot have cake because it is unhealthy and suggest fruit instead. What have you failed to do? Okay, I see this quite often actually, where we have RBTs or practitioners who are trying to dictate everything, right? Your client's mom just told you the client can pick any dessert they want as long as they eat their dinner. The client ate their dinner, they earned their reward, and then you tell them they can't have cake, it's unhealthy, and suggest fruit instead. Now, who are you to really tell them what they can and can't eat, right? One, their mom said they can have it. And two, is that your job? Is that your responsibility? No, right? Would you want someone telling you what dessert you can and can't have? No. So what have you failed to do in this scenario? Okay. Have you failed to maintain client dignity? Absolutely, right? Maintaining client dignity is respecting your client, giving them freedom of choice, freedom of independence, okay? Respecting the client's mom's wishes, okay? They were just told if they eat their dinner, they can have their dessert. Now you're denying them that dessert, okay? Not only are you not maintaining client dignity, you might also cause future issues where they won't trust anymore, right? Or they'll stop eating their dinner because last time they didn't get their cake, okay? So you need to maintain client dignity. You have to respect their wishes, give them freedom of choice, give them independence, okay? What about incidental teaching? Incidental teaching is just naturalistic teaching. We're not talking about naturalistic teaching here, okay? Avoiding a conflict of interest. No, there's no conflict of interest going on. There's no dual relationship, right? You simply denied your client the right to choose a dessert, okay, which isn't fair, okay? That's not dignified or maintaining their dignity. And then fail to implement supervisor feedback. You were not given feedback in the scenario, okay? You just failed to implement what mom requested and what the client wanted, okay? You have failed to maintain client dignity. We need to work within the scope of our responsibilities. We need to work within the scope, okay, of what we're there to do. Okay, we're not their dietitian. We're not there to manage every aspect of their life. If they want cake and their mom says cake is okay, they can have cake. Chris really wants his son to start blowing his nose instead of using his shirt. Chris puts tissue boxes in every room of the house in places where he knows his son will see them. The tissue boxes function as a what? All right, so what is Chris trying to do? He's trying to get his son, okay, to blow his nose. And if we have tissue boxes everywhere, okay, what are they functioning as? Are they a contingency? Well, ask yourself, is there any sort of if-then statement going on? Is there any sort of if you blow your nose, then you get this? No, not that we know of, okay? There's no contingency being put in place. It's not a contingency. Is a tissue box a reinforcer? Well, no, there's no, Chris isn't being reinforced with the tissue box for anything, right? We want Chris to use the tissues, okay? We might deliver a reinforcer after he blows his nose, but the information to support that is not here, okay? The tissue box is not a reinforcer. What about a prompt? Yes, right? What is a prompt? Prompt is a stimulus that evokes the desired response. Putting tissue boxes in every room of the house, okay? Our idea is when Chris sneezes, okay, he's gonna see the tissue box, and instead of wiping his nose on his shirt, he'll go grab a tissue, okay? We are trying to prompt, Chris's son to blow his nose, okay? The tissue box are supposed to serve as a prompt to evoke the blowing the nose behavior. None of the above, no, it's a prompt, okay? So remember, prompts are just temporary SDs. They're temporary discriminative stimuli, temporary instructions, okay? They evoke behavior we want to see. Our tissue box is meant to evoke the blowing the nose behavior. Okay, there are 4 basic reinforcement schedules you use as an RBT. A blank schedule relies on an unchanging number, while a blank schedule relies on an average number. Very easy question, okay? This one should be very straightforward. If you've been reviewing your basic reinforcement schedules, you will know for a fact what we're looking for. So what kind of schedule relies on an unchanging number? Well, this schedule, the rule is in the name, so to speak, because an unchanging number is what? It's a fixed number. And what schedule do we use for an unchanging number? Well, we used a fixed schedule. Okay, so a fixed schedule relies on an unchanging number, while a what schedule relies on an average number. Well, an average would imply that the number changes, okay? Or it's a variable number. So we have a fixed schedule relies on an unchanging number, while a variable schedule relies on an average number. So now we just need to find that in our answer choices. A, ratio interval. No, that's not what we're looking for. Ratio fixed, not what we're looking for. Variable fixed, again, not what we're looking for. Finally, fixed variable. If we plug it in, a fixed schedule relies on an unchanging number, while a variable schedule relies on an average number. Exactly what we're looking for. Okay, easy question. That's a 20, 30-second question at most, right? Remember, you get about a minute 15, a minute 30 for each question on the exam. And I don't tell you that so you start timing yourself on questions. I tell you that because when you get an easy question, I want you spending 20, 30 seconds at most, okay? If you can start getting easy questions quickly, okay, that means you're well prepared, all right? The more you prepare, the easier the easy questions get, okay? And that's where you're trying to get, okay, in your terms of your test prep. All right, next question. Your supervising BCBA conducts an interview with the client's mom. Your BCBA asks about goals, history, and behavior. While this is going on, you're taking narrative data on the client's behavior while playing with his brother. What is taking place? Okay, what are we doing here? It looks like we're gathering a lot of information. The supervisor is getting information on goals, on the history of the client, okay, target behaviors. What are we looking for? What are we trying to accomplish? All while you're taking this narrative ABC data on behavior, okay? You're looking at antecedents and consequences. You're trying to determine all these different things. What is going on? Is this a functional analysis? No, a functional analysis is a systematic manipulation of antecedents and consequences. We're not doing that here, okay? We're simply interviewing and observing. Is it a task analysis? A task analysis is breaking down complex skills into steps to create task chains. Again, not what we're doing here. Is it a functional behavior assessment? Yes, right? What comprises a functional behavior assessment? Those are indirect observations, direct observations, and yes, functional analyses are part of a functional behavior assessment. In this scenario, our BCBA is doing the indirect observation between interviews. We are doing the direct observation with our narrative data. We are conducting a functional behavior assessment. Parent training is not occurring. The BCBA is simply interviewing the client's mom. We are not training at this time, okay? Remember, FBA is comprised of indirect assessments, which are interviews and surveys, checklists, direct assessments, which are actually directly observing the behavior as it occurs, and then functional analysis, which is when we manipulate systematically antecedents and consequences to determine the function. So we are doing a FBA, a functional behavior assessment. Cats is coming back to Broadway next year. During rehearsal, the coordinator is frustrated that her dancers cannot get the moves right. The next time the music starts, she says, "Now watch me," and performs the dance moves she wants to see. What type of prompt is the dance teacher using? Okay, good example of the prompt becoming the SD. The music is typically the SD to start dancing, but in this case, once the music starts, the instructor says, "Watch me." Okay, this is a prompt to evoke what? Evoke the desired response. And we want to see the right dance moves. So what did the instructor do? The instructor performed the dance moves. What type of prompt is she using? Is it a vocal prompt? No, she is not vocally telling them how to do the moves. She is actually doing the moves for them to watch and imitate. Okay, hint, hint. Is this a visual prompt? Be careful, okay? There's a difference between visual and modeling prompt, okay? A modeling prompt is another person engaging in the behavior, okay, in real life, right? I'm in front of you modeling how to do the behavior, okay? Visual prompts are written words and signs and pictures and videos, okay? Those are visual prompts. In this case, the dance teacher is actually in front of the class modeling the dance moves she wants to see. So what type of prompt is she using? A modeling prompt. Physical prompt? No, she's not physically grabbing limbs and making them dance, okay? She is simply modeling what she wants to see from her students. Again, the SD is the music. The prompt is her modeling the moves. The response is the dancers doing the moves, right? And then the consequence is whatever occurs after. This is a modeling prompt. Finally, Greg's boss assigns him the duty of scanning papers, stapling the papers, and then filing the papers. He walks Greg through the steps and says if he needs any help with any step, he can just ask. What type of chaining best describes the scenario? Okay, not a ton of information here, right? But we know it's a chaining question. So let's ask ourselves the questions to get through this, right? So is it a forward task? Ask yourself, is Greg's boss teaching him one step at a time and reinforcing for the first step? No, Greg's boss walked Greg through the whole chain and then said, if you need help, ask, okay? So he taught him the entire chain. Backwards chaining, did he teach him the last step first? No, he walked him through each step and then said, ask for help. So this would be what? This would be total task chaining. In total task chaining, okay, we are performing the entire chain, right, and simply assisting on a step-by-step basis, okay? So if my chain is 10 steps long and my learner has trouble with steps 4, okay, I'm not going to go through the process of forward or backwards chaining when they know those steps, okay? We're going to do the whole chain and then teach 1 or 2 steps if needed. If not, they just do the whole chain and we reinforce at the end. Total task chaining is good for skilled individuals, okay, individuals who already possess most of the chain or all of the chain, okay? And in this case, Greg, he can clearly scan, staple, and file papers. Greg's boss does not need to go through the process of forward or backwards chaining. He can simply teach him the whole chain, and Greg can do the entire chain all the way through. So the chaining that best describes this scenario is total task chaining. Behavior chain interruption strategy, remember, is when you change a step in the chain to evoke a novel response. We're not doing that here. Okay, Greg is simply going through the whole chain by himself. Okay, hope that was helpful. Wednesday, we'll be back with more RBT practice questions. And then Friday, we'll continue our new BCBA series, which I'm very excited about. Okay, as always, website, if you need our study materials, okay, rbtexamreview.com. Questions, comments, please email me or leave them below. Happy to help. Keep studying hard, and I will see you soon.